Hey, Kinger, there's going to be some Dallas Stars fans, maybe even a couple of Colorado fans that jump into the comments and talk about, dust off the golf clubs. And it's hard. They're right. But before we do that, we're going to swing by Cub Foods because, as you know, we like to eat our feelings. And today we're wearing black because it is a little bit of post-mortem here. But I'm going to Cub Foods and I'm going right to the produce aisle because I need a little color in my life. So I'm going to hit the organic fruits section. I'm going to get the brightest stuff. And then I'm going to walk through, continue on. I'm going to grab a cookie because I do like a sweet treat to wash it all down. Then on my way out, I'm going to swing by the liquor store and I'm going to have one in toast to what's been a good year for the Minnesota Wild. I'm going to raise a glass of carbless or, Mick Golden Light, some AB product. Certainly going to raise those up and celebrate because I'm going to go to Cub. I'm going to feel good. I know when I go there, I shop Cub. I shop happy. And after that, then I'll think about golf because golf does also make me happy. And what can we do around golf?
Well, it's going to be golf season coming up here, and certainly July 23rd through the 26th, you got to post yourself up in Blaine, brother. You got to be maybe on a par 3. You just kind of tuck in, get the sun on your body. Kids under 15 are free. You buy tickets to the 3M Open at 3mopen.com. Best player in the world coming to town, Carts. Scotty Scheffler. It is a time. Sneak into King's Corner. That's my favorite little joint. If you can find a lanyard on somebody that's fallen asleep on a chair, get out there, check this out. It's electric. It's fun for group of guys, group of girls, couples, whatever you're doing. No better way to spend the summer than at the 3M Open. And we will be out there as well. Wild on the 7th, not Wild on 7th. So please come out and see us. 3mopen.com.
This is Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast. Did you guys see this? This is unbelievable. What is that all about, Kinger?
Get in here for the real thing. Let's get weird.
Maybe I blacked out trying to figure out what was going on.
Doubt, worry, fear, because that's what we're breaking the mold on here.
Welcome to Wild on 7th, presented by Pilot Games. We're here until it's here.
All right, welcome back to Wild on 7th, a post-mortem edition, kind of out of the blue. This is all brought to you by our friends at Pilot Games. If you're feeling a little down like we are today, you can pick yourself up with a couple of victories. Grab one of their tablets, whether it be this afternoon, happy hour on Friday or Saturday, open weekend, not much to do, no Wild hockey to watch. You can win some money on their e-tabs, and then not only will you win, you maybe get your bar tab paid for, put a little extra dough in the pocket, but your community wins too. Speaking of community, one of the greatest members of the hockey community and Wild community, and actually the X community, quite fun. Actually, let's start there, KG. Let's bring in KG. He's brought to you by our friends at Duke Cannons. If your hair is a weapon, make sure you get Duke Cannon products. You can find them at Target, Ace Hardware. Work harder, smell better, Duke Cannon. KG, I saw you pop off because there are some Dallas fans that decided to jump into the comments, right? Let's start to feel better about ourselves because we're not above having to chirp somebody else to feel better right now. But some Dallas fans, did they jump into our comments late and just kind of throw daggers and you send some back?
They were bad throughout the series. I don't know why they just won't go to the golf course and call it good, but yeah, those Dallas fans lingered and kept lingering. And then, they love seeing Colorado win and sending pictures out. Wallstead sprawled in the blue paint. Final moment, of course, right after that overtime winner by Colorado. And so I don't like to partake in all that stuff. This year during the playoffs, though, I had an edge to my game. And some of that venom came out.
You did have an edge to your game.
I did. I don't normally do that. Maybe I'm channeling my inner Mike Greenlay from back in the day. He used to get into some pretty good battles back on the Twitter machine. But, the playoffs bring out, I think, an edge to all of us and an intensity to all of us. I was into it. We had so much fun throughout this season, but specifically covering that series against Dallas and then seeing that second round, especially a week ago, hometown St. Paul outdoor viewing party. We were a part of it with your show here. So yeah, it maybe brought out the good and the bad in all of us.
You know what we have to give credit to, because it is just so much more fun because of this, if you ask me. The guys at Spittin' Chicklets, Paul Bissonnette, Ryan Whitney and company, they've done a good job, I think, just in general putting color into the game of hockey and bringing out personality of players, and they've done a great job there. But what they've also done is, as media members, they have rooting interests in teams. So they've almost made it okay, or not okay, but just commonplace, more popular to be able to be in the media but have a rooting interest for a team and still be a professional about it. And I think this year with this Wild team, I think you are similar, and I'm there too, where it was like, it was okay to say, like, yeah, we like these guys, we like these humans, they're players too, it's a good squad, we're absolutely rooting for them, and that doesn't mean that we're unprofessional at what we do. We still will call it the way that we see it, but it's been fun to have a rooting interest in this, don't you think? Like, it's always been there. Now we just talk about it.
Which it's good. Like, I think the casual sports fans that are maybe coming to hockey, and, I'll explain it this way. I look at Bissonnette kind of like I look at Charles Barkley with the NBA. Does things completely differently. I don't love the NBA, but when Charles Barkley is on the TV and I'm able to watch, I'm entranced. I can't get enough of Charles. And I think for the average sports fan, when they see a guy like Bissonnette, he's a personality. He brings new people to our game. And if he's going to change the way we take things in with social media, I'm all good, because guys like us, when we're at the rink, we are going to be pros. We're not going to be cheerleaders at the rink. We're going to do our job. But on social media, on a podcast, at a viewing party, that's a whole different forum. And I love that guys like Bissonnette, Spittin' Chicklets, Whitney, and those guys are making it okay for us to have more than just one way to cover these teams and these games, because the bottom line is we're here to entertain, whether it's the middle of December and we're in Columbus, or if it's right now and the weather's warm and the Wild are playing Colorado. We are here to entertain, and the more we can entertain and make people want to come see or listen to us, the better it's going to be. And so I'm all for it.
Well, I got to give you a bunch of credit then, because
you
entertain on television. You entertain on the podcast. I open up X. You're entertaining me. You're on your way to the radio station later here today. I mean, you're just entertaining in all areas of media right now. And I'm going to read this tweet. We're just going to give this guy a first name.
Oh, no.
Eric said, "Good night, Minnesota Wild fans." And it was the photo of Volstead laying on his stomach with the puck in the back of the net. And you replied, "Good night, Eric. So we enjoyed our time, or we so enjoyed our time in Dallas. See you next season so we can run you into the ground again. So much fun. Tuck tuck now. Z. With a photo of Matt Boldy kind of walking off on that OT winner. So well done.
It's funny because I haven't been that guy very often, and I've had people reach out to me kind of in my hockey circles that don't really like tune into my stuff on Twitter, which is fine. And they're like, I need more of this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I got to be careful though. I get it. It's fun, right? And we're not out here trying to hurt each other's feelings. We're having a good time. Dallas fans are mad because we beat them. Now we're mad because Colorado beat us. And, that's part of the beauty of sports. It's going to bring you back to sometimes being just like a kid. And I'm okay with that. And I think fans respect that too. Like, listen, we're all in this together. Last night sucked. I was so angry when I went to bed. I woke up sad. And I'm not going to run from that. I'm not going to pretend I don't care. That's not who I am. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm going to be down the rest of the week. Friday night specifically at about 7 o'clock, I'm going to be really down. And, that reaction I had on social media probably is just a part of the healing process.
Oh, good. We like it. We hope you heal fully here soon. But it is just also more fun. Like the Daryl Ray stuff around the Herb Brooks statue. It just added an extra element, and it just brought like another level of kind of fun and competition to it. So I think you're right. As long as it's all in fun and it's PG-13 for the most part, keep it going. But let's get back to the sad stuff. Even though I don't know why we want to, but that's why we're here. The Wild go into Colorado after kind of laying an egg in Game 4. needing to win Game 5, and they get off to a tremendous start. And DJ Hines shakes up the lines. He puts McCarron with Boldy and Johansson, and 34 seconds into this game, they score. And, for me, it was like tremendous start. I don't know how anybody can argue any other way, but great start for them. What were your thoughts and feelings after probably that first period when the Wild kind of had things going their way?
Well, Karts, I'll go back to his post-game press conference, and I was like, I don't want to say cringing, but I was certainly like, wow, this is an interesting time to call your team out. And I said, John Hines picks his words very carefully. He's a very thoughtful man, and I think everything's kind of done with a purpose, and I love that about him. And so I was like, well, let's just see how these guys respond, because they absolutely were called out by their head coach. And so when I watched the opening period, but specifically those first couple of shifts, knowing that DJ Hines, as you call him, and I love that nickname, kind of shook things up, I was excited. I was thrilled, because I'm like, he's got the room. These guys responded. This is exactly the first period I hoped Minnesota was going to have. And I felt really good, because I'm like, they can get this thing back to St. Paul. And winning the series wasn't even on my mind. I just wanted more hockey, and I wanted to see a response. And I think we got that response in the opening frame in Game 5, 100%.
Yeah, and I do like that Hines was able to say something there too, but it's my understanding that after Game 4, there was some accountability being taken place in the locker room, aside from the coaches going in there saying that they need more. And I think that Hines was able to go into that presser and say a couple of things, because those guys were saying it first. And that, the message was going to be probably not just received, but reiterated. And the guys that lead, Marcus Foligno's comments yesterday morning and everybody else, or post-game and stuff, they understood. And I think they echoed it down to a man. Like, even if you listened to after post-game, Game 4, Volsted's comments, it was similar. They knew they just abandoned what they were good at and didn't play a game that would give them, as Hines likes to say, the best chance to win, and they didn't. And that's the power of Colorado. If you don't play the game you have to win, they're probably going to beat you. And they just have the talent and the ability to skate, play, score, you name it, defend, and at times goaltend, even though I think that the Wild had their goaltending tandem on the ropes here in this series. They just couldn't capitalize on it in volume. But, so DJ Hines does a good job, gets the guys going. They respond well, and it did feel like, okay, boom, this game looks like it's going to go the Wild's way. And I went into this thinking Game 5 of the 3 wins that the Wild were going to have to rip off to take the series was going to be the most gettable win. The 4th is the hardest. Colorado at home, feeling good about a 3-1 series lead. Sometimes it's hard to manufacture desperation. It really
Agree.
is. As a coach, you can go in, you can try to motivate, you can say things, but you know that you have to be careful on the words that you say and the things that you do too, because you can't manufacture that. That's where you need like your leadership group to just like take it and illustrate it, And so I thought the Wild were going to be able to catch Colorado. Complacent's not the right word, but with a little more complacency than they had probably in Game 3 or 4. And they did to start the game, but going down 3-0, I think, and then give Bednar some credit. He changes the goaltender. They found some urgency, and the game changed. But I always felt that Game 5 was going to be the most gettable. Game 6 at home here was going to be a complete dogfight if they were able to get that one. And then Game 7, as everybody knows, is a complete coin flip, and you don't know what's going to happen there. But after the first period, I was like, yeah, like this is going exactly how I thought it would. The Wild are going to take Game 5. It was the most gettable game. Colorado didn't come out guns blazing. They're down 3-0. This is perfect. I must say, though, I did have to fight off the thoughts where it's like, don't pre-Sally, don't get too excited, don't get too comfortable because Colorado's coming. And then certainly they did. But what do you think of the move from Bednar to make the goaltender change? And do you think that sparks a club? And, I mean, certainly it did there.
Well, you can't argue it. He's a great coach. He seemed to press all the right buttons at the right time within this series, did a great job. You never feel comfortable when you're playing this team. Yeah, I don't care how many goals you're up. You never can come up for air. It feels like you're always just trying to survive. And you knew that Colorado, with the goalie change and the fact that they were embarrassed by a 3-0 deficit after one period on home ice, they were going to fire a bullet in the second period. And I was texting with some buddies of mine that have coached and played the game, and I'm like, listen, if they can just take the punch or punches and still be up at least 2 going into the third period, they've got this. Like, they're going to be in a great spot for victory. And so as bad as the second period was, and again, part of that is Colorado played at their highest level. And I don't care what team, pick another team in the National Hockey League. Sometimes you're just going to have to weather that storm. Mm-hmm. I loved their third period, Ryan. I loved the way they came out. They did have chances to score. Faber did hit a crossbar. They didn't just lay back. They didn't take penalties, which I thought would be an absolute killer in that final frame at altitude. All that being said, this is why Colorado likely goes on to win the Stanley Cup. If you make one little mistake at the wrong time, they will make you pay. And Nick Foligno blocks that shot just under 4 minutes to go. Wild are kind of on their heels at this point of the third period. And the Wild get the puck in the neutral zone with maybe a chance to get to the red line, dump the puck in, and get fresh troops out there. And God bless Ryan Hartman. He's one of the all-time favorites for me. I love him off the ice. I love him on the ice. He's one of my very favorite players that's ever played here, and I'll never question anything he does. But the bottom line is he iced the puck. And in a normal game, doesn't really matter, right? If it's in November, who cares? In Game 5, must win. That icing turns into an offensive zone face-off where the Avalanche against a tired group of Wild players win the draw, clean, score the goal. And now there's 3.5 minutes to go, and it's 3-2. It's game on, and you're going to give a player like MacKinnon a chance to make a play, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. And you're right. The Wild got a couple of things I think they needed. It was a good night on the PK. They stayed out of the penalty box. I think, again, the goaltender changed, some doubt in Colorado, but Colorado is just kind of relentless in their ability to just kind of keep coming. And you're right, the second period for Minnesota weathered the storm, did a good job. Watching this one, I felt if the Wild could get to the third period without giving up a second goal again, so with a 2-goal lead going into the third, I was like, I think they've got the ability to shut this down. If Colorado can get one, because there was about 9 minutes left in the second, I think, when they scored that, and there was enough time for them to get another. It's like, if that gets to 3-2 by that time, watch out. Like, this all of a sudden becomes scary. But they get to the third period with a 2-goal lead, and I felt pretty confident with it. And then the way they started that third period, it was good. Colorado was clogged up. They couldn't get things going, but special players do special things, and special teams kind of get, the breaks when they need to. They're able to create.
How about
plays.
that shot, though, by MacKinnon? Like, honestly, I mean, that shot is 1 in 1,000, and he's one of the few players that can pull it off. I look at Kaprizov kind of the same way, but Cards, you've played in the league, you won a cup. Like, to make that type of a shot in that situation, knowing you got a goalie that's not only playing great, but he's a big framed goalie. There's no room there. That shot to me is one of the greatest shots I've ever seen. Unbelievable by MacKinnon.
Yeah, it was a good shot. I think there's a few things to unpack with that shot. Before we get to that, I do just want to mention, if we go in chronological order, that nothing was beating Wallstedt.
I know.
Like, he was locked in. Again, nothing was beating him except for a tip or deflection to where he couldn't react to it in time. The only 2 goals that beat him, were those deflected pucks. So a couple of tips from the slot, redirections, that's all that was going to get past him. If he was going to see it, he was going to stop it until that MacKinnon shot. And that MacKinnon shot, now I'm going to look at it from a couple of different lenses. one, Jake Middleton was kind of down covering the slot, and there really wasn't anybody to cover there. But I don't think that that's a bad play. Like, if you're going to give up a shot 6-on-5, that's not a bad shot to give up. And I
agree.
I understand it's Nathan MacKinnon, but you're kind of like, that's not a bad one to give up. That can miss the net and be a breakout. That one can hit the shoulder, and Jake Middleton's right there to gather it and send it out of the zone. That's one that a goaltender could maybe more often than not maybe catch, fall, get a whistle, something like that. So it's not a terribly high danger shot. It wasn't. You're almost like on the PK, sometimes you're like, they have 5, we have 4, we have to give something up. This isn't bad to give up. 6-on-5, if you have to give something up, that's not bad. And
I agree there, yeah, because he's out from distance, and what you're trying to avoid in a 6-on-5 situation is down around the blue paint. You're going to give them a shot from distance, and you're going to say, if you can make that shot, if you can put it over our goalie's shoulder and under the bar, you've got about a 3-inch window there, then we're going to give you that shot. Wallstedt thought he was in the perfect position. I can't tell you how difficult that shot is, and I think it surprised everybody, including our goaltender.
Well, so that's one of my next thoughts, and I'd love to ask you too. So no screen, again, ideal shot to give up. No screen, some people on the backside, but it's a gettable puck. It's a stoppable puck. But Wallstedt, because he had been beat in the series and throughout on redirections, I think he was kind of sitting a little deeper in the net. And instead of him being further out and more aggressive like we've seen, he was reading and protecting plays to that back side. So he's a little deeper in the net to protect against some of those. And with that, Nathan MacKinnon just has a little extra time. He's got a little extra sight where he can see this tiny little window, and then he fires that wrister, and boom, it's up there. And I think that's why Wallstedt, if you look, it's like a oh man, because I think he knew like that maybe was stoppable. Perfect shot from MacKinnon. I'm not trying to take anything away from him there, but the goaltender was just deep in the net, kind of hugging the post. If he's a little further out and more aggressive, like we've seen him on the edges throughout this playoff, when we're saying he's dialed in, it's on plays like that. He just maybe for the first time sat deep in his net. And again, I don't blame him, because I was reading the same things, watching it live, is looking what kind of skates or what kind of sticks were on that backside, because more often than not, that's how you see those go in. And MacKinnon just decides, I'm going to fire this thing, and it goes into the net. But you notice the same, like a little deeper. If he's out on the paint, I think that catches the shoulder, and it's not in the back of the net.
Deeper for a reason.
For a reason.
6-on-5. Yeah, they had bodies down low. If you look back and if you watch the replay of the goal, there's an Avalanche player at the top of the crease. There's an Avalanche player on the weak side post. And from a goalie's perspective, he can't just come out and take the MacKinnon shot, because if that puck goes off him or goes past him to the left, there's somebody there for a kick in. And so he's reading that like, there's no way he's going to beat me short side. That's too risky of a shot. If he shoots that puck, he's going to shoot it on my left side, looking for a rebound or a tip from either one of those two players on the back door. And so really in a tricky spot, almost daring him to make the shot he did. It's a 1 in 1,000 shot, but there are players in this league that can make that shot. And unfortunately, with just over a minute to go in the game, MacKinnon did just that. But that is, to your point, super high risk, because if that shot is a couple inches higher and it goes wide, it likely rims all the way out of the rink, because Colorado had kind of shrunk the offensive attack zone. And if you miss wide on the far side there, that puck's likely out. And now you're down to 35, 40 seconds, not even in the zone yet. So, hey, he made the shot under the bar and in, literally top snag of the net. Yep. Incredible shot.
I do love that play in general too, though, because it almost illustrates the thinking and the processing that has to occur on the ice. Like a goaltender's like, I've got Nathan MacKinnon over here, and this is all happening real time. Like I can give him short side just this little bit, but I have to cover this backside. I have to maintain my positioning, my edges, to be able to get back to that if he decides to make this play. So all these calculations on risk running through the mind, and then on the other side of that is Nathan MacKinnon saying, okay, I think I can do this. You know what I mean? And then boom, it's right. Like it's the beauty. It's the beauty of the game and the position.
100%.
Just like how fast these decisions have to be made and the reads that they're making and the good ones nail it. So pretty interesting there. I thought that was certainly fun. What do you think of the overtime too? Because I thought the overtime was electric. It looked like two teams that were ready and wanting to win.
It felt like it wasn't going to take long, and I loved how Eddie Olchuk broke down that pass where, it just wasn't quite in the wheelhouse for Big Mac, for McCarron, which would have been an open net. Like if he gets that clean, it's a goal. And I loved your tweet about the big paddle. How did it miss the big paddle? It was just behind a little bit. And then, again, Kaprizov, I know he's going to get criticized, and he probably should have shot the puck. They went for the perfect play, and I know they executed that play. If you go back to the playoff series against Vegas last year in a power play sequence where they were really working the seam together, and I know he saw Boldy over there. It's such a hard play at full speed to execute. Again, we're not in the moment, sitting on our Barca loungers watching at home. Yeah, shoot the puck. I get it. He's trying to make a play where Boldy basically has a wide open net as well.
On the flip side,
with that play is
what you say on the flip side of that is, should Marty Necas have shot the puck? Because he had an opportunity in the slot. He made a pass, and then the pass increased the probabilities that that puck hits the back of the net, and Kulak does it. That's what those guys do. That's what they do. Should he have shot in hindsight? Yeah, that's 2020.
Sure.
Should Necas have shot? Well, we won't know. But
unfortunately, no.
Had Kulak missed that one? Yeah. Hindsight 2020, Necas should have shot that puck. So those skill guys, it's hard to say like he should have done something different. I think what that illustrates for me is that the back pressure from Colorado kind of was an issue for Kaprizov throughout this game. He actually logged 0 shots on Kaprizov did on goal in the game, kind of an issue. I think the speed for Colorado and the way they defended were kind of smothered them a little bit. But I thought the overtime was dynamite. It was a lot of fun. Two teams going out there slugging it out to win. But any final thoughts before we cut you loose and send you on your way to K-Fan?
Yeah, I want to leave fans with this because the pain of last night's going to stay with us probably into the summer, and that's fine. But when I look at the other side of the equation, where this team is right now, and I'm just completing 2 decades of covering this team, I've never been more excited about what lies ahead. And I think every team that eventually goes on a cup run has a moment like last night and has a playoff series or two like the Wild just had. Sometimes you got to get hurt before you get to heaven. And this is where I'm going with this, because I've heard back in the day, I've heard Wayne Gretzky talk about those Oilers teams that won all those Stanley Cups and how they had to learn how to lose and how to get better from it. And so Minnesota's young core, I look at 5 players right now that are budding superstars that are the young core of this window in time where we can win a cup. Wall of St. Paul, Faber, Hughes, Kaprizov, and Boldy. That 5-man unit is going to be, I think, the core that leads this team into that Stanley Cup conversation and eventually that Stanley Cup run. In moments of this series, they were unbelievable. And this goaltender, to me, has taken a huge, huge step. But you've got, in my opinion, Kaprizov and Hughes in their prime right now, and you've got Faber and Boldy ascending into their prime. You can build around them. You've got something here. I really believe there is something right now that is tangible that I can see. And taking my Wild fandom away and just looking at this pragmatically, this team is ready. And what you have to do now is figure out a way to get through this division, because this division likely has the cup winner within it in the next 5 years, probably 3 times. The Wild need to be one of those 3.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's a time for optimism when it comes to the Wild and their winning window, not skepticism or anything like that. So thanks for joining, Gorgs. Good stuff there. Good luck on K-Fan. We'll talk to you soon, pal. All right, we had to let Gorgie go so he could exercise some demons on K-Fan a little bit. And with that, we've got an opportunity to bring in some other guys who maybe spent a little time this morning on the leather couch or on the socials kind of working through their own emotions. We've got Radio Joe, who came in from Colorado last night. Welcome to the show. And back to the studio in shorts still, our man John King. Hey, we're going to call this episode and this game the one that got away, because the Wild they had that game in their grasp, up 3-0 after the first period. It got away. I think the series actually takes a pretty significant change, too, if the Wild could have found a way to win that game kind of in decisive fashion. But, Joe, let's start with you, because just got done talking with Gorgie about the fact that we liked the way the Wild started, and Hines had challenged the group after Game 4 verbally, and DJ Hines did his thing. He got the response he wanted. They came out, shook up the lines, put McKinnon up there, and 34 seconds in, they score. What was the atmosphere like in Colorado? What was the body language of the Avs like? I always felt that was going to be of the 3 wins the Wild were going to have to win to take the series. Game 5 was going to be the one that was probably going to be the easiest. Not a fair thing to say, but you and I, actually, Joe, you and I talked about this, where I was like, I think 5's the one that they get. 6 is going to be a complete dogfight. 7's a coin flip.
Yeah, I love the way they started. Obviously, they were prepared. They were ready to go. They got to their game plan. Look at the 2 goals they scored. Well, the 3, if you include the McKinnon one that was waved off or overturned, because the puck went off of his glove, I guess. They were right in the blue paint. The Nick Foligno goals right in the blue paint. The Johansson goal 34 seconds in comes off a cycle, right? And so that's the Wild's game. They didn't get to it enough in this series, but I love the way they started the game. I knew it would be, you had 40-some minutes left of hockey to try and survive. Hopefully you add to the lead. If you could have gotten a 4th one, is it over? Maybe. And then you get to the 3rd period, 3-1, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, just sort of segments, right? Like, get to the first TV timeout, still up 3-1. Can you get to the 10-minute mark without – and they got all the way down to 4 minutes left, basically, with that 2-goal lead. And at that point, I thought they were in a good spot. You knew if the Avs got one, the goalie pull was coming, and you'd be in one. And ultimately, they were. Just one save short, one little play short, one block shot short. Fellas, I'm not going to lie, man. I'm pretty shook right now. Like, I knew the Avs could come back and win that game, but that's kind of in the back of your mind, right? Like, the building's quiet, the Wild jump all over them. They've got all the momentum. Avs make a goalie change for the 2nd time in the series, which is in a 5-game series. I'd love to know if a team's ever made 2 in-game goalie switches and won a series in 5 before. Like, I bet it's happened rarely. You got to credit Colorado. They're a great team. They proved it. Their depth came through in waves in this series. They had 16 different goal scorers score in this series alone, which I believe ties an NHL record. And I don't know if the Wild got tired or mentally fatigued or what, but you could tell going into overtime that was a shaken group. And unfortunately, they came out in overtime, in my opinion, kind of played that way, played a little rattled. Had a couple chances, right? The Boldy to McKinnon feed is a little off the mark. McKinnon can't connect. Maybe you win it 30 seconds in. And then Kaprizov coming down that left wing side forces the pass, 10, 12 seconds later, game over, series over. So I know I just kind of went start to finish on you, but I'm very much stream of conscious today. Like, I've got so many thoughts. That was a tough bus ride and plane ride back last night, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, what, like quiet? Like, was it? Like,
yeah. As quiet and as, honestly, I hate to use the word depressing, because depression is obviously a real thing that affects a lot of people. But it was down. This is the first year that I have been with the team where they lost on the road to end a series. I believe the Blues, Stars, and Vegas series that I covered playoff-wise were all losses at home to end things. So a little different feel there, traveling back right after the game, getting in at 2:33 in the morning with, just a really, you could tell, like, almost a shocked, disappointed, angry, but knowing that it's over look on the players' faces. That's something that I don't know if I'll forget for a long time, just looking at the guys walking onto the plane. Again, I don't know what goes on as the flight moves along, but from the vibe I got, there wasn't much of like, wow, it was a good year or any of that. Like, the guys were shook.
Yeah.
from what I could tell.
Yeah. And watching as it ended, the looks on faces, it also kind of looked like it hit different than losing to Vegas in the first round, or like it looked different to the guys when they had the close-ups of those moments right after losing that series. But King, what did you end up noticing about that one? Or what are your thoughts? How are you feeling today? Do you have a session on the sofa? Like, are we all good? Like, where are we at?
I think the 24-hour rule is a good one. Here's the deal. I do know some stuff. I watch our fan base, and I'll tell you some positives, okay? So it was interesting when a team loses, the Instagram handle sort of has to put this post out like, thanks for a good season, right? And I looked at the comments because I'm a sicko, and I would say 70% were positive. They were like, love these guys, best team we ever had. We beat Dallas. You exercised some of the demons, maybe not all of them. We're only going to get better. And then there was 30%, emotional terrorist in there. Here's my message. I'm not going to turn against the team, and I have a couple reasons why. I think you can direct that frustration you have towards external forces, okay? I found myself when I would see a post, some influencer, carpetbagger that puts on a Wild jersey for one night, and tomorrow night he's going to put a Ducks jersey on, and he's pretending to feel the grief of the state of hockey in a dark car after a game. My message to that guy is get the hell out of here. We don't need that. We don't need to turn on everything. We don't need to decide that Kirill Kaprizov is a bad player because he didn't make one pass, or he did pass at the end of the game, or Ryan Hartman has an icing, or, I just have zero interest in carving the group, because if you told me at the start of the year, you said, hey, you're gonna exercise the first round exit, that's going to be over. You're going to actually beat Dallas, who might be the team you hate the most in the playoffs. You're going to have a collection of superstars, including Quinn Hughes, at the end of the year because of your GM who's up for GM of the year. You might be the second best team in the National Hockey League, possibly, when this all plays out, but you're certainly in the top 8. And I don't know. I just find it hard to, just carve. I don't, and I also find anger towards like national media. I really do feel like no one is interested in this story. We are Indianapolis. No one wants the Colts to win the Super Bowl, right? Like we're not the story they want. And if I see one more video package with a laser pointer and Jake Middleton, I think I'm going to throw my laptop off something, So I just, it's up to us to do this, and it's the group in the room and it's the fans. I think Billy brings the right psyche. I'm very interested to see if I could talk to anyone in the world today, it would be Bill Guerin, because I want to know. Not today, actually. That's maybe a month. I'd like to talk to Billy because I want to know what he considers the chassis of the car. What are the pieces that he trusts? They're battle tested. What moves does he want to make? What's going to happen with the goaltenders? What's going to happen with the center? I'm over the prevent defense, referencing a Viking coach from 15 years ago. Quinnipiac Gophers, I just am done with it. I want to look forward, and it's also hard as hell to do this. Mm-hmm. As a fan, Carts, I was at the point now where I was just watching games. I wasn't doing all the shenanigans and the frozen glass and the jersey and the superstition. I was fatigued. I was just like, I'm going to watch this game. I'm just going to watch a hockey game and see what happens. Imagine being a player. We didn't even make it halfway. They got to go twice as long to get this job done. It's a hell of a lot harder to win a cup than a gold medal. That's one thing I learned in the last month and a half, So I don't know. I don't want to be negative because I think it rots you to the core. And I think we had a completely rotten apple before. I think we're probably about 30% rotten now.
Well, and that's what I think too. Like, you look at the players, and Joe, you touched on the fact that it was pretty somber on the Bird after that. It'll take a little time for them to reflect, and I think it'll be similar to what the fan sentiments were to that social post where it was a 70%. It was a pretty darn good year for everybody, and at different times, each guy kind of had their part in it. You look at Nick Foligno getting 2 goals last night, and he was likely one of the guys post-game 4 saying something. He was able to do what he was brought here to do, and they got through a round, and he played a role in that first round too. Nico Sturm, face-off guy, has won a couple of cups. You saw Nico Sturm's experience show up in the playoffs. He was better in the playoffs than he was in the regular season. His challenge is going to be play that way the first 82. Like, don't put so much pressure on yourself, or apply more pressure. And then you just continue to go up the lineup. There are guys that contributed big things to this group throughout the year. Johansson, Boldy, Kaprizov, Hartman. You go down the blue line, obviously Faber Hughes, Middleton, Spurgeon and company. Goaltenders, obviously a big part of that as well too. So I think in the end, it's going to end up being 70% a positive year, 30% there's things that they want to work on. I also think you can look at it like this. I like that. Like this group, what this year was the 4 nations to Team USA. They lost in that one, but they learned a couple of things, and then they were able to go apply it and win a gold medal. This team got through the first round. They broke through that first pane of glass in terms of breaking the mold. Now, I think what they'll learn over the course of the next couple of months, or what they'll probably digest, is how to get through all those pains. And if I'm being critical of the Wild, it's not on an individual level. It's when you look at a series and how you have to win and how you have to win multiple, it's responding to certain challenges a certain way. And the Wild's challenge after Game 3 was to bring the same Game 4. And they didn't do that. That's the challenge that they didn't rise to. They've learned that lesson now against a good team, and Colorado's a great team. They were able to execute throughout the Dallas series and play their game and be the better team in 5, if not 6 of those games. Colorado series, they were able to do that in 1 game. But they saw the recipe, they couldn't duplicate it. They got away from it. That's the lesson they'll take away from this. And you think about the Edmonton Oilers getting to the Stanley Cup final, then to the Stanley Cup final, or even you go to the Florida Panthers, who got to the final, lost, got to the final one, got to the final one. I think that this is the type of group that could be like that, where you're the Florida Panthers, it's of a couple of years ago, where it's your turn now. This group is, you have your Barkov, your Kachuk, your Reinhart, you have Kaprizov, you have Boldy, you have Hughes, Faber, you've got Bobrovsky in Volstead. And I'm not saying that that's always the template and you need those pieces. What I'm saying is you have the core, you have the pieces now to be able to go on a run like that. And it takes a couple of lessons. And as much as we talk about you can learn lessons in the first round, and from a first round loss, you kind of can. But it also takes winning a series to learn how to win. And this group finally did that.
Yeah, no, I
think it's a great point. Kind of been thinking the same thing. Like, I hope that they learn something from this series, the loss to Colorado, whichever players we're talking about that are returning, old guys, new guys, somewhere in between. Because I think there is a lot to learn from this series. And John Hines talked about all playoffs long, learning from games, good and bad. And I felt like the team did that. But you can't give up a game. Put it this way, you can't give up more than 1 game in a best of 7, right? Like, the Wild kind of gave up Game 4.
They gave and Game 1. Yeah, I thought Game 1.
Yeah,
but yeah, same.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I do look back and I go, man, had you taken Game 1, that, fire wagon hockey, you're leading that game, had probably no business leading that game, but you were. Could you have gotten that one? Game 4 is the one that got away from the standpoint of they just didn't get to their style of game quick enough, consistently enough, but yet it was 1-1, 2-2 with 8 minutes left. Like, so that's frustrating. Like, they were so close without, again, Eriksson, Ek, and Brodin that I don't think you can emphasize enough, the impact of those two losses. So I just hope that they take some things from it. The guys that are going to return to this roster, including a young goaltender, Jesper Wallstedt, and they just learn from it, and they're better for it. Like, this one's going to sting for a while, and look, this wasn't a game 7 where they blew a 3-0 lead. This was game 5. They still had to win 2 more games against the best team in the league that hadn't dropped 3 in a row in 6 weeks. So it was going to be a challenge no matter what. It's just heartbreaking and frustrating to come out and play so well and have the lead for 50-some minutes in that game and get down to 90 seconds. You're 90 seconds away from dragging Colorado back to St. Paul. That's all I wanted. I just wanted Colorado to have to fire up that private jet and come on back here. They would have been miserable, the Avs. And you got that sense. Like, Colorado knew if last night was game 2, I'm fully convinced the Wild win the game. The Avs made such a push because they knew they could end it and get time off, or they had to come back for one more game at least. And it felt like they just dug a little bit deeper. I think the pressure kind of got to the Wild a little bit going into overtime, knowing what had kind of slipped through their fingers. They look like they weren't as experienced in some of these areas. Again, just my opinion, but they'll learn from it, and I do think they'll be better for it. It's going to take a little bit to get over this one, and it's daunting to me. Obviously, I don't even play. Like, last night was the 99th game of the year for the Wild, preseason, regular season, playoffs. When you think to now, okay, October rolls around, you got to do it, 100 plus times if you want to win the Stanley Cup. To me, that's daunting. I don't know how the players wrap their minds around that. It's like, oh, we got to start from square one. We put in so much work, so much time. We got closer than we had in the past. And then they kind of, obviously didn't have the great result there at the end. But a lot to unpack, fellas. It really is, some good, some bad, some question marks moving forward. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. I feel for Wallstedt, I really do, because I thought the kid played his heart out. 2 deflected goals by depth players. We saw that on full display all series from Colorado. MacKinnon, world class, great shot, and then no prayer on the overtime. And he almost got it with his glove. I watched that goal and that replay a ton of times last night on the flight and this morning because I'm a sicko. Wally just missed that thing with his glove, and it would have been the save of the game, save of the season, had he been able to keep it out.
No question. If he makes a save in that OT one, that would have been dynamite. But Wally was locked in. He's one of those guys that might be like, this was a 95% a good year. I don't know that he really had a hiccup or that he could have done much more throughout the course of the season. Like, for a guy to bounce back and do what he did after the year he had last year, boy, that's impressive. And to come in and win a series against Dallas, bounce back after giving up the crease after game 1, to be great in game 3. He was good in game 4, great in game 5. Like, Wallstedt, he had a heck of a season. He really did. I was talking to Gorgie about this. It was crazy. Nothing was beating him. Nothing was beating him except for, and as I was watching the game, it felt like every shot was more stressful that went towards Colorado's net. Like, it had a better chance to go in than shots did against Wallstedt, just because, like, he was making saves. Like, he was making saves one-timers, sliding from his right to left with the blocker and making it kind of look routine. Like, it just looked like, oh, he's dialed. And then took a couple of deflections to beat him. And then Nathan MacKinnon, Gorgie and I talked about this at length a little bit, but that was the only time I think Wallstedt got caught in his net, and I think he was making a good read because there was people on the far side. And you think of the Hartman goal, I think in the Dallas series and others, like a lot of teams are shooting through the paint on the front side of the net looking for some type of redirection. I think he was calculating that, waiting for that, and with that he's a little deeper, and MacKinnon was able to hit the tiniest of spots up there. And I do want to touch on this because it was interesting how the overtime in general, I thought, was awesome. I don't know how DJ Hines feels about it, because it looked like a team, and what I liked about it is it looked like a team that was said in the room, let's go win this game. It wasn't a team that looked like they said, let's go see if we can't outweight Colorado or counter their punch. So it was a couple of seconds in, Boldy McCarron, 2-on-1, boom, just misses. And then it was like chances, chances, chances. And it was exciting. It was fun. But the stretch pass has been something that Quinn Hughes has unlocked with great efficiency this year for Minnesota. And that pass up to Natchez after that pickoff play was unbelievable. Like, to be able to put the appropriate weight on that, cross the ice, off the wall, indirect, to where it's not an icing, Natchez picks it up with speed and then wheels around the net, that pass isn't getting anywhere near enough credit for how unbelievable it actually was. And then Natchez makes a great play, patient play. I was sitting there thinking, how does he have a half an hour to shoot this puck? But it was the stretch pass. It was all the room he got from that, that play from his own end.
Did you guys hear that after the game he said he wasn't even supposed to be on the ice?
No.
They only had 4 skaters out there, so he just went.
Keep your heads up, kids. No way.
Yep. Post game, they interviewed him about the goal, the setup, and I didn't hear the exact quote, but the headline was basically Nate just recognized they were a player short. He jumped. And then I did read the quote where he said, on the rush, he saw they had 4 guys back. Kaprizov had room, but they had help coming back. So he just kind of cheated and said, screw it. And so he broke the other way off that, pass misses wide. And who threw that up there for Colorado, by the way?
I don't know. I'll look.
Because Kulak was the defenseman trying to get his stick in the lane.
Kulak was the one that made the
Kaprizov
stick play that broke the pass up.
Did he get a piece of it, though?
Yeah, he got a piece of it.
Okay.
100% got a piece.
I tried to watch that a few times to see if I could tell if he tipped it or if it was just a pass behind Boldy. But
that's crazy from Natchez and makes sense because as I was watching, I thought they were in the midst of a change because he was on the ice with like Drury and a couple of other players that he doesn't play with. So, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but that makes a little bit of sense now why Natchez was out there with those guys.
And then, I don't know if you caught this, guys, but the Wild were changing their defense as Kaprizov was carrying the puck into the offensive zone. I think Hughes and Faber went off. I'm not certain. It was hard to tell in the replays I saw. But Middleton and Spurgeon are the guys that came on. And, anytime, like when you misfire a shot, you misfire a pass, and it kicks off the boards, you're always in trouble going the other way sometimes. And you're right. Whoever threw that puck up the ice for Colorado, maybe if it's somebody a little bit faster for Minnesota, maybe if it's Hughes or Faber that are out there, maybe they get to that puck first. But Natchez had the better angle on Middleton, who's now in chase mode. He chased him around the net, which, isn't usually advised. But again, I think I just got the sense he was gassed down the stretch of that game. And then just a great patient play by Natchez. And Spurgeon, Zuccarello's back there as well, looking around to see if he can pick somebody up. And the Avs just made a great play.
Yeah, they did make a great play. And guys were looking to try to cover each other. They didn't get their sort outs right. And season
and I'll say
over.
this: Brett Kulak was, I don't want to say the best defenseman on the ice for Colorado because that would be insulting to Cale Makar, but you look at the numbers, Kulak played a ton of minutes. I think he played more 5-on-5 minutes in the series than Makar per game. Now, Cale left 2 games for a few minutes with injury. By the way, what's with that guy? Like, do you think maybe his shoulders popped out and like 4 minutes later he's back? He's got like Superman recovery mode or something. But Brett Kulak, again, trade deadline acquisition. You think about the moves the Wild made. McCarron turned out to be a stud move. Nick Foligno did his thing, came up clutch in Game 5. Bobby Brinks certainly added some things when called upon. Petrie, I thought, played a great Game 5. So the moves Billy G made worked. The moves that Chris McFarland made, Nick Waugh, 2 game-winning goals in the playoffs. Kulak, who they got, who's on his 3rd team this year, they really, and Kadri, like those are some moves that Colorado really bolstered themselves with at the deadline.
Yeah, those are great moves. Kulak too has some crazy stat where in elimination games he's like 8-1 or something like that. Like
Oh, it's better than that.
It's like
yeah,
9-1
I saw
now?
that yesterday.
Yeah.
I want to say I'll look at it, Carts, but it's right. Well, I don't know if I can pull it up while I'm on the live stream with you guys. It might screw something up.
I thought it was like 8 or 9
It's
and
a
1.
ridiculous record.
Yeah. In elimination games, Kulak is. So this guy, and it maybe have to be 2, but regardless, whatever team he's on, he seems to play well in crunch time. And it's only fitting too. Like you read that stat in the morning, and then it's Kulak who makes the play in overtime, then jumps up the ice and puts the puck in the back of the net in an elimination game. It's like it's like a defenseman's version.
It's 14-1 now in closeout games.
Jeez,
14-1 in closeout games. That's almost like Justin Williams Game 7 type of magic. You know what I mean? 14-1 in closeout games, and he's the guy breaking up a 2-on-1 with Minnesota's best 2 forwards and then going down the other end and putting the puck in the back of the net. Like some guys just have gifts and they just have luck in certain areas. Kulak might be that. Jeez.
Yeah, I think I like what you said, Karts, about the 4 nations. I think my positivity, I guess if I'm looking for positivity, I would be looking at kind of in Billy we trust, right? He did a lot of moves. Joe just played out how successful most of those moves are. That's not even giving us credit for Quinn, Tarasenko, Sturm, right? So there's been so many moves that he's made that have put us in a position. If you were to say, like, if you were to interview me at the start of the season, I would have told you we have to take a step forward. We have to show these guys that this is a place you can win. We have to completely change the psyche and the body language of the franchise. And I probably would have even said, I don't know if this is the year we win it, but we have to take a step forward.
A legitimate step.
A legitimate step forward and be ready to be, if you're a contender, then you're getting into the next step. I had a question for you guys, and I don't know. So one thing I wonder about our team is who's the alpha, okay? And I look at our team. So even Florida in their run, they have all these good players, right? They've got Kachuk. They'll throw a Marchand in there. They've got the goalie. They've got the big D-man. But to a T, they would all tell you that's Barkey's team. Barkov, even when he was hurt this year, right? They don't make the playoffs. He was their guy. He might not be the flashiest guy. He's the captain. He's the guy. In some ways, I think Billy's the alpha of the Minnesota Wild right now, in terms of he's wheeling and dealing. He's making moves. He's obviously a proven winner. We kind of rotate between Quinn, Kirill, Boldy. Faber does some. It's almost like you're kind of looking for one guy to grab the team and be like, this is my team. There's other pieces, but I don't know if that's a real thing. I don't know if that's the exact opposite definition of what makes a team, but I do wonder at times. You see it with shooting, right? So Kirill, no shots last night, right? I mean, it would be fair to say, hey, you're our best goal scorer in a key game. We need you to shoot the puck. Because as a matter of fact, most of the time, you have a better chance of scoring than anyone else. So I'm just wondering if at some point, is there like it just feels like, I don't know, on any given day. Some nights it's Quinn's team, some nights it's Kirill's team, other nights it's Boldy's team.
Yeah.
And I think there's a side of me, if I'm really looking at body of work, the whole league history as a hockey fan, that says that's a little bit like having 2 goalies, right? Like, well, who's the guy? I kind of wish it was like, this Quinn is the guy, and there's other pieces that make a ton of sense and help us, but it's one person's team. I'm not saying it should be him, but is that a thing? Like,
yeah.
Are we missing an alpha sort of, or people that want to be an alpha, or just to, take it by the throat?
I don't think so. Here's what I think, and what I think will happen. I think last year we heard that Bill Guerin challenged Matt Boldy that he needs to be better in playoff hockey. He has to develop this part of his game,
Which he did.
I think that Brock Faber's about to get that speech this summer, that we will win when this becomes your team. And I think it is Brock Faber's team. And he's probably not the guy that you think, because you have Kaprizov, you have Boldy. But a lot of it, I think, is tied to doing things the right way, battling the right way. But you also have to play the minutes. You also have to have the role. Like, you think of Barkov, like he is their PK guy, their PP guy, their 5-on-5 guy. Like, he's all of those things. And Brock Faber is all of those things. He touches every piece of the game. He plays 30 minutes a night. And I think what ends up having to happen is you have a guy like Quinn Hughes, but it might become Brock Faber's team. So then you almost have to say, like, we're actually going to give some minutes that maybe would be better with Quinn Hughes to Brock Faber. And this is just spitballing here on the PP, because you need Brock Faber to have those moments for it to be his team. Mm-hmm. But going forward, I think that's the conversation that is had with Brock Faber. It's like, the time is now. It's there. He has the personality. I think he has the want. I think he has probably the respect of his teammates, and then he has the game to go with it. So I think he's the guy. And
that's amazing. Doesn't wear a letter.
No, but it's coming.
I know, but
it's coming.
That's what I'm talking about, where you go, that's the Billy piece that's very interesting.
And it becomes hard, because you're going to do that?
Is what are you going to do here in terms of this team? So, and I also want to talk about the fan thing I said earlier. The Wild, in many ways, had a season that is similar to Brock Faber, okay? So Brock Faber started a little slow, right? And then found a completely different gear and really grew as a player. You could probably say, in terms of growth, in terms of what he unlocked this year, probably the most on the team, right? Boldy, something similar in the playoffs, but I really think that's kind of what the team did. They got through that demon of the first round. They beat Dallas. They're in this gauntlet of the top three teams. Yeah, Colorado, there's some frustration there at the end, but it is funny that no one's going to say Brock had a bad year. But for whatever reason, the negativity is still at 30% with the Wild because of how things ended, right? And I do see it as a step forward, and I'm fascinated because Billy, if nothing, he is a wheeler dealer. All bets are off. I don't know.
And I don't think wheeling dealing. So wheeling dealing is like making a tough decision internally.
That's right. And I'm not saying he's irresponsible or reckless.
And it's not. I'm not saying external. I think that some of the things that might have the biggest impact will be internal.
Yep, I agree.
So there's that potential. Joe, I want to ask you quick, because we like DJ Hines, and another thing, and we'll have another podcast where we'll talk about the whole season as a recap. But just a
bold
quick
predictions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
A couple of quick thoughts on this, because I thought Hines did a tremendous job this year, and when I think about coaches, I always think about a deck of cards. You have 52, and every time you play a card, that card is burnt. Boom, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. And Hines did a tremendous job this year keeping this team online, like with the right mentality, while playing very few cards. And I think he knew the team. He's smart. He's a tactician with X's and O's, with matchups, with changing his lineup and his groups and the messages there before and after games. But would you agree with that sentiment that Hines? I think he just did a tremendous job coaching this team while not giving up life, because the shelf life of a coach, I think, is short to begin with. And when you have good teams and you have to motivate in spots like this, you rip through some of those 52 cards faster because you have to use them up. And Hines, I thought he did a tremendous job throughout the year on that. You agree?
I do agree. I think it's well said. I think John Hines learned a lot, 4 Nations and Olympics, from being around a long time friend of his and Mike Sullivan and John Tortorella and the rest of that staff. Like, we talked to him post-Olympics. I think it was I think it was good for Hines to be there and to see, as he calls it, those high stakes games, those high stakes environments. I like his flexibility to mix up the lines within a game to game. They made some harder decisions this year, whether that was management partially driven or all coaching driven. Playing Volstead in game one against Dallas was not an easy. It's a decision that could have been very scrutinized if the kid had fallen flat on his face. So,
and it's a decision that could have had ramifications inside the room. Like, let's not forget,
absolutely.
there's a lot of Swedes and a lot of guy that battled through a lot of things with Gustafsson and Volstead, the new up and comer. Like, he's a part of the team, but it could have shaken up the group inside the room too, and
absolutely
it didn't.
And then you look at Game 6. Do you play Petrie? Do you play Hunt? They go with Petrie, the veteran. They get the win. Then starting Colorado, they go with Hunt. So like, they weren't afraid to make changes even when they were winning. And I think that's the mark of a coaching staff, the entire staff, that has a good pulse and a good feel from the group. The other thing, too, I think, Carts, is important to point out is, like, you got to credit the veterans. Coach's job is way easier, as you know, when you have good vets. And we heard this from back in the Dean Evison days that, like, the Jared Spurgeons of the world on the bench in a game, they're irreplaceable. The things they say, the way they conduct themselves, not too high, not too low. And even talking to John Hines, like, yesterday, like, he thought the team would be ready. Like, I looked right at him and was like, think the guys, he knew the guys would be ready. And he had the pulse on that. They were ready. Unfortunately, they didn't get the job done. So I think he has a very good vibe on the team, good sense of the team. You got to have good leaders to help get that message across to the younger guys, make sure it's consistent in your play. But, I think they've got the right guy for the job. And for John Hines, his first time getting out of the first round as a head coach. So what's he learned? What's he gained experience-wise? Jared Bednar has a little bit more experience. He has a Stanley Cup. He's got a really good team. So I think it was a challenge up and down, player-wise, staff-wise, and the Wild got to look at, the class of the NHL. Let's call it what it is. I mean, if Colorado doesn't win the Stanley Cup, I'm going to be shocked. I mean, if they don't go to the finals, I'll be even more shocked. Like, it's their Stanley Cup to lose at this point. I think that's fair to say. You got to credit from that. They got a great roster. They've been there. They've done that. If they stay healthy, I don't see how anybody beats them. And I don't know if Wild fans will take solace in that. Like, as a fan base, is it better if you lose to the team that's a wagon and wins it all? Or does it make it more painful knowing you were that close? But I think coaching staff all year did a really good job. The special teams, best power play in franchise history in the regular season. It was up and down in the playoffs. Obviously, we know the PK struggle in the postseason, but that's, I think, a large part because you had no Eriksson and no Brodin for such long stretches as well. So you got to factor that in.
Any final thoughts before we cut you loose?
I don't know. Again, this one for me. This to me felt like I feel when, a sports team that I root for has a tough one. Like, wake up in the morning, first thing you think of is, lost that game last night. I'm telling you, that plane ride home, I was beside myself. Like, I try to keep it together. I think I did keep it together. But, if I had been in a padded room instead of an airplane, I'd have been throwing things, cursing up a storm. Like, I was fired up, man. It was tough. It's a tough way. And it's such a stunning way to go out, right? I don't know if have the Wild ever been eliminated in overtime before?
I don't know.
I mean,
I think they did in the St. Louis series, but yeah.
That's sudden death.
Legitimately.
That's why they call it that. And it was tough. It was really tough. You feel for the guys, man. I really do, because this is a good group. They're so accommodating. They treat us very respectfully on the media side. Rarely do we get told no for an interview request. And, you just get to know them over the course of the year. Not super well, but have little conversations here or there. You just feel part of it for 7 months plus. And so I feel for the guys today because, just to get one more home game would have been great for so many reasons. The fan base would have felt way better about things, I think. And then who knows? Maybe you get a game 6 and you force it to 7 and you would have silenced some of the national media critics. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just such a tough way to go out with a 3-0 lead. And 90 seconds left, you're that close, from forcing another game and dragging Colorado back here with you. So I'll be stung for this one personally for a while, like just emotionally, like shocked and rattled and all those terms. But it was a great year. 104 points out of the first round for the first time in 12 years. Just a great team to be around and be a part of. So many highlights: the Quinn Hughes trade, the emergence of Brock Faber, Kaprizov, another point-a-game year, the way Boldy is rising. I think the Volstead we talked about, I think the future is really bright. It just shows you how hard it is to win this damn Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a little daunting, like I said earlier, to think, okay, September rolls around, training camp, you got to go through this all again just to try and get back here. And to Kinger's point, still not even halfway done as far as trying to, get mission accomplished. So a lot to unpack. I guess ultimately I'll look forward to the time with the family here and spend the summer driving my kids around to youth sports. But I appreciate you guys having me on so much throughout the year. Again, I mentioned it to you guys a couple podcasts back. Like, a lot of fans listen to this pod. They watch this pod. They wait for the new content. So hope they enjoyed it. It was great being a part of it over this playoff run, and definitely a season I won't forget anytime soon. Just, again, a little bit of regret there that it didn't at least get us one more game on what was such a fun season.
Yeah.
Thanks for riding with us, brother.
Yeah, it was fun. Fun having a little clubhouse. Appreciate you spending all this time. Like, again, you were on the run. You were Colorado. You were back. I mean, it's the morning of. You got back last night at 2:30 in the morning, and here you are, already done up, ready to go for the pod. So appreciate that. We'll have more. There will be more before we actually officially close out the season. But for now, try to have yourself a good rest of the day. All right, Joe?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
All right. Hey, King, I want to talk to you about a couple more things because I do think there's a lot of promise, and you mentioned it. Like, this group, this core, I think what's different too is I'm excited about the summer, and we won't know or hear about some of these conversations that are had, but I think when it comes to Kirill Kaprizov, he's not been pushed in the past like he was pushed this year by a Matt Boldy. Now, for the first time, I think Bill Guerin can have a conversation with Kaprizov and say, hey, might need a little more here, might need a little more there, or, what do you need? We'll try to get it, and, that puts a little bit of accountability on him. I think the conversations that Bill Guerin can have with the group this summer, too, are much different than they've ever been in the past, and I can only imagine that those help this group.
Yeah, I agree, and one thing, I didn't get to do the one that got away part that you did with Gorg. And I will say, just watching that game last night, Carts, right? We're up 3. At one point, we're up 4. It gets disallowed. Is that right?
No, we were up 3, went down to 2.
Took it away and
back
went
to
back
3.
3,
Yeah.
sorry. But, I'm thinking about the street party, right? I'm thinking
Same.
about, we're texting about it.
I ordered a dunk tank.
Yeah, I was gonna get a karate suit and be breaking Wedgwood and Blackwood. I was gonna be like, could I get the Wedgwood? And then you were gonna come out with the wood, and I was gonna be wearing a white robe and a wild bandana and smashing it. The fans were electric on that game when they came out. It was all happening, right? We're mixing the leather and lace, right? You got MacKinnon on the second line, something we talked about the pod before. It's working. It's happening. We get the first goal. Zuccarello is reverse checking Makar. Makar's wearing a sling basically on the ice. It was like Rocky IV. I'm like, he's bleeding. He's bleeding, And then it was gone. And you wake up and so my message first of all, I want to thank the fans because it has been so wonderful being in the clubhouse with you guys and going on the roller coaster together. When those guys put the puck in that board, did you notice how they don't really fit?
Yeah, they had to jam them in there.
They have to jam them in there. That's what the playoffs is like. I liked that those holes were almost a little bit too small. You had to get a mallet to get them in. That's how every W is when you're trying to get 16 of them. But I would just say, stay positive. Anything you want to say to a guy, about an icing, about a pass he shouldn't have made, just go on the Wild app and watch the reporters ask him that 5 times when they couldn't be more raw. They just got off the ice. So whatever that anger is that you have and you want to direct it inward, it's not helpful, right? And if I would say if this was a company, a business, and you said, okay, Bill Guerin's the CEO. He's collected some assets. He's made some moves. Oh, by the way, he was the CEO of this thing called Team USA, and now we hired him, and he's our CEO. And, he's got Kaprizov and Boldy and Faber and Volstead and Quinn Hughes. And, this is how our year went, calendar year to calendar year. This is the progress we've made at the annual report, right? So I would just say don't point your guns at ourselves. Stop doing that. Let's go hunting this summer. Let's figure out what Billy wants. Let's figure out what leadership looks like in the room going forward, to your point. Let's figure out what Kirill needs. Anything you want to say that's negative. You don't think Ryan Hartman knows he shouldn't have iced the puck there? You don't think Kirill might not pass that next time? By the way, if that goes in, if we score on that play, do you think anybody's talking? It's so crazy, man. Like, it's just it's not helpful. It's not making you a good fan. It's not helping the team. And I'm just saying, don't point your guns at your own army. It's not helpful.
Think about what we got.
I will not do that. I will not do it. If you think I'm a company man, I'm sorry. I just won't do it. Not with this group and not with the body of work we put together this year.
Think about the year that you got. It was a tough October, then a great November on. Then you got a large contingent here winning a gold medal. You had a bunch of Olympians. Then you had a good finish to the year, a playoff win against Dallas. We got to experience the watch party in nice weather and all of those things outside. Like, this group gave us a lot. It really did. It was a fun ride. Thanks to all the fans who were on the ride with us. We obviously increased the cadence for the playoffs because each playoff game is almost like a season in itself, and there's so much to talk about. So those of you that were along for the ride and listened and enjoyed it, thanks. That helps us out, and it'll hopefully make us better next year too. But John, I think that's a wrap for now. We'll get to some of the other stuff after some of these meetings. But
if we can somehow get Billy on the next one, that would be the way to do it. I mean, he's going to have his remarks. That would give me the closure I need. I need Billy in the third chair, kind of in a month or so to put a bow on this thing before he goes out hunting. But yeah, thanks for the listeners. Thanks for the fans. Thanks for the 23 guys in the room laying it on the line for us. Thank you to Huss, Gilly, Wild Socials, all the people that make this thing go. And I love spending time with you, Cart. So that is a wrap, I guess, on the playoffs at least. And we'll look back at the season coming up.
we're here
Till it's here.